Okay, Joe, in advance, my condolences, but it seems like since the last podcast that you've had, one hell of a week. Is it okay? Can I run down the scores? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, naturally started the CFL week with the Bombers losing again, egregiously scoring most of their points in garbage time. The truth is, Joe, that we're still awaiting in real time. We're still awaiting the Alouettes game, but the truth is I've beaten you in the CFL USA Fantasy League. Over on the NFL side, Greg Jennings just retired. I think today even, as we record this, the great Packers wideout has retired. And most egregiously, you also lost to me in the Grueling Truth Gridiron Mo Super Bowl trivia contest as I avenge my earlier humiliation. Joe, what do you have to say for yourself? Do we have to talk you off the ledge?
You don't have to talk me off the ledge, but, oh, my God, not a good week.
This one will be better.
It almost has to be, right?
Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. My name's Oz Davis. I'm a writer here at thegruelingtruth.net, and joining me is pretty much regular columnist, I think we can call you, over at thegruelingtruth.net, Joe Pritchard. Joe, aside from the aforementioned string of defeats this week, how are you doing personally?
Well, pieces up at Grueling Truth this morning as we're recording on Monday night for Tuesday here. So the piece that will have been out for over a day now when people are listening to this. So things could be a heck of a lot worse.
Okay, good. Nice to see that you're putting the optimistic face on things. I hate to give you the ammunition with which to fire back at me, but the truth is, it doesn't really matter that I beat you in the Gridiron Mo Super Bowl trivia contest because I lost too. So the format that they got there, 4 guys square off, and only the top 2 advance to a final round. I protested that. I thought it was bracket format.
No, that's I've listened probably to the last 4 of those shows. That is always the way it's been done here. Plus, the guy running the contest is probably not too keen on hearing that, so I'm pretty sure you got denied pretty flat out, didn't you?
Yes, I know the rules of the game. I'm just, I'm being pop-esque here and throwing a flag where none exists. In any case, let's talk about the week that was, shall we?
Well, or the week that is at this point.
Yeah, we've got 3/4 of the week in the books. Let me ask you this, because I spoke with our mutual friend over there at the Grueling Truth, Mike Goodpaster, and he was ranting about how stupid the Monday Night Football concept is for the CFL. How are you on the Monday Night Football concept, Joe?
I understand it only because the construction at BMO this year caused Toronto Football Club, the soccer team, to have to push a lot of their home games back during the time when the Argos are playing their home games. So the schedule is going to be a little bit goofy, but at the same time, as far as the Argos go, and of course we have the 9 teams, so there's always the weird bye weeks and a few Wednesday games here and there too. I don't see it as a huge problem as long as you don't stick the Argos with a home game on Wednesday during the IndyCar race. That's probably not so hot. But hey, football on a Monday night, I grew up with that. I can deal with that once in a while.
Yeah, how about that? It's nice. It's nice to get Monday Night Football this early. I'm kind of for it. I just wish it wasn't, starring my ill-fated Montreal Alouettes. Would have been nice to have gotten the Saskatchewan Ottawa game on Monday night, huh? Or the Hamilton Edmonton game. That's a Monday night game. Right? That's what you want to see. But of course, you can't time travel like that. So.
Nope. And Toronto, unfortunately, is stuck with one more year of not so great scheduling, but it sure as heck beats last year.
Well, yeah. I think the jerk around factor is a lot lower this year. I think at least people know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In any case, let's see. Let's go through last week here that has already gone past, and I'm sure that we'll have updates as we record this tonight. Wow, the game is actually going on in real time, as they say. Of course, we opened with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers doing more of the same, losing to the Calgary Stampeders 33-18. Of course, we knew that the numbers were against the Bombers going in. We knew that they did not look very good in weeks past. The offense in particular is just not working, particularly on first down. Were you at all, I mean, it's kind of tough to get optimism out of a Bombers fan at this point, but were you optimistic at all with the substitution for Drew Willie and with what seemed to be a pretty decent performance by Matt Nichols?
Right. It took a little bit too long to happen, but it finally happened. It's just been clear probably since about the third game that Drew Willie just was not throwing the ball down the field at all. I also, and this is, I wish I could have spent more time and gone back this weekend and taken a second look at that, although really why would I want to? But I was noticing Willie in the end of the second quarter and at the beginning of the third quarter not going through any progressions. He would take a snap, he'd look right at his receiver, and off it went. I remember at least 1 second and long play where Willie took the snap and immediately turns to his right and throws it to Andrew Harris. And we're talking about not even maybe a second, not even 2 seconds, where he already made up his mind that it's second and long, but I'm going to throw the flat pass, and that's what I'm going to do. At that point, I was pretty sure that he was not going to see the end of the game, and he did not.
Yeah, and also I believe that he was making in that third quarter, he made the second down and 10 completion for 8 yards to Harris, if I remember correctly. And it was interesting because the TSN play-by-play guys were calling this getting Harris involved, and it was clearly nothing of the sort. You cannot play that way against a defense as good as what Calgary has. I think that's clear. That sort of weakness will not be permitted to flourish. Okay, so we're going to take a sneak peek forward, just momentarily here. Do you feel better about? I mean, I assume Willie's going to be sitting in the next game. I assume he will not be the starter against a team with profound weakness against the long pass.
Right. It has been announced that Matt Nichols is the starter for next week. Whether or not that continues going forward, whether or not Matt Nichols gets the whole game at Edmonton, that's not known for sure. But I'm pretty sure that had Drew Willie been named the starter for this game, it would have probably been a win or go home scenario for Mike O'Shea. So I think it was probably the smarter move on his part to buy himself a little bit of time to see if they can get the ship righted. He has definitely been sticking by Willie for a lot longer than a lot of people would have. Definitely stubborn on that point, but I think it's pretty clear now that it was time to do something. Whether or not Matt Nichols is the answer or not, I don't feel terribly confident about him being the answer. But from everything I've seen at the beginning of this season, Drew Willie is not the answer, at least for this team this year.
Do you think heads will roll in Winnipeg? Are seats getting hot?
I think if they don't win one of the next 2 games or at least show a lot of improvement, I think the bye week becomes a pretty bloody one.
Oh, wow. All right. The apocalypse is coming to Winnipeg, apparently. Okay. All right.
Or has it left? That's the real question.
And we just didn't notice. What can you say about Calgary? How much do you like this team, particularly since they're hosting the BC Lions next week?
I think we're going to see a lot of what Calgary's all about this next upcoming week here. They've done the job. They have beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat.
Right.
They tied with Ottawa. They lost to BC at the beginning of the season when people weren't quite sure what they were going to see out of BC. But I think at this point it's pretty clear that BC is going to be that team in the bottom three from last year in the West that has asserted itself as the team to watch out for in the West this year.
Yeah. They're looking just as good as anybody for the second two-thirds of the season. For the next two-thirds of the season, they're looking good. In general, the Stampeders are a different team, despite staying pretty much absolutely the same. They appear to be a much different team from that week one loss, the opening week loss against the Lions, in which they just looked completely, I described it at that time as hungover. They certainly appeared slow and sluggish in that game. Of course, on the other hand, BC Lions, too, has made some improvements since that game one, but we can talk about that a bit later on in the show. Back to the past, let's say. All right, Saskatchewan, Ottawa. How impressed were you with the Saskatchewan win?
That's probably why they say that you need to play all these games here, right? Who gave Saskatchewan a chance at the beginning of this game? Who did? I don't know very many people that did. Probably not even a lot of Rider fans did. But right off the hop, you have Trevor Harris going down. Brock Jensen, who is from probably about an hour west of Green Bay, just to give you some perspective on where he grew up, came in and did a pretty admirable job for a guy coming right off the bench and into the frying pan, as so to speak here. But Saskatchewan took advantage.
Jensen outplayed Gale. That's the thing. This week, if you were playing fantasy, you would statistically have rather had the Ottawa QBs than the Saskatchewan QBs. I mean, 20 of 29, 2 touchdowns. 271 yards. I mean, that's not shabby. That's not like the numbers that we're expecting out of Red Blacks quarterbacks. But, geez, in a pinch, that's not bad.
No, not at all. So the Ottawa offense did what they were supposed to do, but the Saskatchewan offense did what they were supposed to do as well. To be honest, though, what I'm going to remember the most out of this game were the penalties and the reviews, and that's not what I should be remembering out of this game because it was a lot better played than the officiating gave it credit for.
Especially when compared with the Edmonton game, in which the flags were staying in the pockets there for most of that game. But in any case, I'm kind of surprised. Because what I'll remember from this game is Zach Evans. Zach Evans, who tore up poor Josiah St. John for most of this game, ended up with 3 sacks. I really liked what he brought to the game. And I was somewhat disappointed with the Red Black defense, particularly given that they're playing a second-string quarterback here, and that this was a defense that had really been evolving this past 2-3 weeks. Didn't like their play so much outside of Zach.
No, they've been definitely outscoring teams this year, and they were not able to outscore Saskatchewan this time around here.
So what do you make of the Riders' quarterback situation going forward here? Are you happy with Gale?
Well, if I'm a Rider fan, which I'm very, very much not, but if I were, I would be feeling a lot better about where my team's quarterback situation was. Because now I know that even when Darian Durant pulls back in here, if he does not finish a game or if he does not end up finishing the season, there's at least a quarterback behind him that who is also going to be learning behind Durant here, but he's also going to be able to come in and at least move the ball and score some points here and there. I wouldn't say that they should be planning any sort of Grey Cup parade, mind you, but they got to be feeling a lot better about where their quarterback situation was than a couple weeks ago. Gale's only been on the roster for a couple weeks, and that's even more impressive, is that Gale was able to come in, not have a lot of reps, and do all this these past couple weeks here. So you really have to be satisfied with his play so far.
Yeah, he's been solid. However, I think, going down the stretch, I think that this defense in general is going to be the Achilles heel over there in Saskatchewan. I honestly cannot believe how good they made, Jensen look in this game. I'm not sure he should have had that good a game. If you ask me, if you didn't have the numbers, I would say that Gale looked a lot better. Jensen, nothing to complain about in Jensen's game. However, you have to wonder, no interceptions in this game? I mean, these are not great secondaries in specific, but I think these are not great defenses in specific. I talked about Zach Evans before. The rest of the players on his team managed one combined sack, and that was the sack that took out Harris in the first quarter. So these were not high pressure, high intensity defenses in this game.
Right. And now the issue that people are seeing in Saskatchewan with the defense, people are saying, oh, Chris Jones, great defensive coach, he's going to turn this defense around right away. Problem is this is pretty much a defense made up of everybody new in this defense. They haven't had a lot of time to play together. They haven't had a lot of time to learn Jones' system. And really, it's only been one off season where you're replacing the entire defense. The best analogy I've ever heard about putting together a football team is you can have you can hire the best Italian chef in the world, but if you give them ingredients for Chinese food, it's not going to work out so hot here. So it's going to take a little bit more time for Jones to be able to get that defense and mold it to the way he's going to be. If I'm a Rider fan, I'm not panicking about that defense. I know this is part of the growing experience, and I'm feeling a lot better about my team than the team 5 hours east on the Trans-Canada.
Well, you're not gonna panic, okay? But you have to realize I actually spoke with Andrew of the Eskimo Empire podcast today. I was talking with him, just on random stuff. And he pointed out something interesting, which is this. One of the reasons why the CFL teams are particularly pass happy these days is because of the defensive pass interference call. They're going for broke and chucking it up and hoping that they'll get the call back, like we've been talking about the past couple weeks on this show and other shows. The problem is that ultimately when you're going down the stretch to the playoffs, to the Grey Cup, somebody's going to have to play defense here. Somebody's going to have to play defense. Now, there's a lot of teams that can air it out. Saskatchewan is one of them, which is one of the interesting things about Jones bringing his defensive acumen to this team. He's been way more successful with his offense than with the defense. You're going to need a defense coming down the stretch. The only two teams I see that resemble a complete team right now are BC and Calgary, as far as I'm concerned. That's why I would be concerned about Saskatchewan defense. Look, this year, it's not going to be among the tops in the league. It's not. And I think ultimately that's what's going to stop them when push comes to shove.
I just don't think they have the horses this year. But as a lot of people have been saying, and so have I, next year you give Jones a base to work from, some defensive players to keep this time around, and he's going to be able to start putting in people that can work with these other players that fit his system a little bit better than just whoever he can go scrape up.
Well, as recently as 2 weeks ago, though, and this is one thing that has bothered me, as recently as 2 weeks ago, Jones was still choosing from among 11 defensive linemen. Yeah, it's like, okay, he better not be changing any of his eventual front four next season, because he's had a chance to look at a lot of guys this year, and he hasn't paid, I feel, enough attention to the back eight. I don't know. I'm concerned in this respect, and I think you're right. There's no way this defense comes around this year. But, again, the way that these guys run up the scoreboard, the way that they're keeping pace with the better teams in the CFL is super impressive. I mean, these are games where, again, they would be in garbage time in the fourth quarter last season. But they're staying in these games this year, and you have to love that improvement.
Right. Yep. That's it. That's really about where they're at right now. Mm-hmm. Last year they started out having games just like that too, but then they took a nosedive downwards. This year, I see that trend changing.
Right, exactly. You gotta if you're a Riders fan, you're living large right now. You like this win, and you like the fact that you get Montreal next week.
Yep.
Good time.
And you feel good about the direction your franchise is going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. The other barn burner, Hamilton Tiger Cats 37, Edmonton Eskimos 31. A tale of two halves, eh? I've been asking everybody that I know in CFLdom, what exactly happened to Edmonton? Why did the offensive line crumble like that in the second half? Why didn't the defense apply any pressure to Mazzoli as he went on the freakish run of record-setting, consecutive completions? What happened here, Joe? Do you have any insight?
Well, the game kicked off about 6 o'clock my time here on Saturday night, and I was feeling rather under the weather Saturday night. Fell asleep about 8 o'clock, right about when Edmonton was way ahead. Not that I had much of a choice. My body was just telling me, nope, you're done. So Edmonton decided to take a nap with me, and it cost them.
It sure did. That was a costly nap by them. It's interesting because, so I was watching the game on ESPN3, right? And you can go back and you can watch those later. So the first half comes to a close, right? And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to go get some beer, and then I'll probably watch a movie, and then I'll catch the rest of it tomorrow morning, right? And so stupid enough, right? I'm getting ready to go, and I get a phone call, so I'm stuck for another 10, 15 minutes. The half starts. Edmonton's already gone, bam, bam, two and out, really quickly. And we're starting to see some action. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll watch a few more minutes. And then, I ended up getting my beer an hour and a half later.
Rather good timing for you.
Well, I still bought the beer, so it's not like I saved money or anything like that. But it made a nice nightcap rather than a game accompaniment. Let's put it that way. Great comeback by the Tiger Cats, although, again, I've got to say, here's another team, the Eskimos, right? Unquestionable offense, at least aside from that line for about the entire third quarter, but just nothing on the defense, nothing out there in the secondary. I was, again, the thing that I was thinking when Collaros. He looked like Collaros for a little while. When Mazzoli was completing this ungodly run of passes, it's like, why are you still in the zone? Why won't you put some pressure on the guy? I know you're afraid of Jeremiah Mazzoli beating you deep, but don't you take a chance after completion 13, 14, 15? Or is your defense so friggin' beat at that point that they have no energy to rush the passer and you've waited too long? What is the thinking there? This is almost a rhetorical question, Joe, because nobody has been able to answer it for me.
No, I wouldn't imagine. So you would think that they would have tried some sort of different personnel, different package, different look, but I guess they thought that 31-6 was a safe lead. And, well, they all take later on the CFL, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, what they say. But, I mean, this was truly a, Buffalo Bills, Houston Oilers style comeback in this game. At this point, Edmonton, here are the defending champions, looking passable at least these past few weeks, if not among the very best. And yet, here they are after this game. They've now surrendered 568.5 total yards. That's third worst in the league. This is a team that apparently, it seems now, took too many hits in the off season.
Well, and again, we go right back to the chef analogy. Maybe Mike Benavides isn't used to this type of defensive personnel. This type of defensive personnel maybe doesn't play Mike Benavides style defense the way that he'd like them to. Clearly, Jones is a lot more pressure happy last year than Benavides is this year, and when you have players that have the style to play one way and you're being coached the other way, that could become a huge issue, which is exactly what we saw.
See, I'd stretch your Italian chef analogy a little bit here, because I think Edmonton defense is more akin to having the Italian master chef and making him cook, but you don't let him use any tomatoes or pasta. I think is more like it. I think, what happened is that, Edmonton returned a lot of guys from that Grey Cup winning team, but lost just enough, particularly in that secondary, to free agency and whatnot, to cripple them just that much so that the repeat is going to be extremely difficult in this league. Again, to me, this is another team that can flip the scoreboard but can't stop the other team. I mean, if they let Mazzoli do that, I mean, what are they going to do when they face a real long ball threat?
Well, we know what they can. We know what they can do when they face a guy that doesn't have a long ball threat. Let's talk about last week. But then next week we'll see if that's going to be any different. Right.
That's the one thing that should be making Bombers fans optimistic. Well, that and the fact that they're playing in Edmonton. So, the Eskimos will probably lose because they're the home team. But is that, again, they can't take the long pass. They can't. And they'll refuse to throw a blitz, apparently. I mean, that's got to change next week. But, wow, I'm just shocked at this passive zony stuff that was going on. After a while, it's just, what the hell are you doing? But anyway, that's me.
Well,
I get obsessed with things like that.
When we get to that game preview, to throw a stat at you that makes you feel a little bit less confident about the Bombers' chances, because I definitely have one.
Right, okay, let's put a bow on that, and we will look to the future right after this.
Yes, that's what I thought.
All right, let's talk next week in accordance with CFL Pick'em. What did we do last week? We were both 2-2, right? Because I think everybody on the planet had the exact same 4 picks.
Well,
we're 1-2.
We're 1-2 at this point, and the Argos and Alouettes are about to kick off in real time here as we're recording here, so we haven't seen Montreal lose yet. So I would still say 1-2.
See, I'm already counting that chicken before it's hatched. The cynicism and the pessimism is just overwhelming at this point. Okay, so we also will not be able to do the point spreads for these games because they're not out yet because the Monday night game is now running. In any case, okay, here we go. First up again, Winnipeg. Winnipeg is first up, I think, every week. Winnipeg Blue Bombers at Edmonton Eskimos.
Every Thursday in July, except for the first one.
Uh-huh.
They play every Thursday in July.
Mm-hmm. Well, they just, get that out of the way and move on to the meat of the schedule. What do you think? Did you see enough in that fourth quarter against a relatively laid-back Calgary defense at that point to convince you that there's enough to beat the Eskimos here?
Not a chance.
Okay, so whatever the point spread is, you'll take the Eskimos minus the points, right?
Most likely, unless it's something ridiculous like 20 or something.
No, you're not going to see a 20-point line. Okay, all right. I was going to give the Bombers a little bit more of a chance. I'm wondering how demoralized the Eskimos are going to be after this loss, because that was a hell of a bad half of football. But I'll go with the Eskimos winning, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than 20, maybe single digits. Right. Okay. So not much question about this one. A lot of questions about this one, though. Sorry.
Let me cover why I'm so pessimistic about this.
Okay. Go. All right.
Okay. So I like the fact that Nichols. We're going to see what Nichols can do. Especially, he does match up decently well. Long ball against the Edmonton defense. However, there's something that really gives me a lot of pause here. The Bombers have not won in Edmonton since 2006.
Woo!
And if they had not beaten Calgary in basically a garbage time game at the very end of 2014, they would be 0-16 in games that matter in Alberta for the last 16 visits out there. So they do not travel well to Alberta. I have enough reasons to be pessimistic about this team already, so I'm going to call this one as it is.
Yeah, the historical perspective is pushing me way over into that column now, too. Joe Pritchard with the history and statistics at thegruelingtruth.net and on this podcast, The Rouge, White, and Blue. Well done, Joe. Well done. I can't imagine anybody going with Winnipeg now.
Yep, and watch. They'll prove me wrong and make me happy at the same time.
Exactly.
Right?
It's always a good news, bad news kind of thing. Right. Okay, well, on to the game, which is not so easy to call, I think. BC Lions at Calgary Stampeders. Whoa, game of the week.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. This one, I have Calgary winning a tight one at home, as both teams buck the trend that has been going around of road teams winning. I think that sets up a beautiful rubber match on August 19th in BC between these two teams for the season series. That is the game I will be seeing live. So I'm looking forward to a great game, not only next week, but a couple weeks down the road, too.
Sweet. All right. Well, have fun at that. I am so back and forth on this one. I think that kind of by default, they kind of backed into it. BC Lions is probably your number one team in a power rankings list right now. But Calgary, I mean, after that first game, Calgary has looked pretty, they've looked like the team that's been a threat to take the Grey Cup the last two seasons. On the other hand, BC Lions, this defense has been looking better than it has in years. I mean, do you have any statistics to back me up there, Joe?
Well, I think you ran out of hands, for one thing.
I'm genetically crossed with an octopus now. I had some surgery over the weekend. Right now, BC Lions defense is tops in the league, is it not? You'd have to say so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of numbers on that one, but yeah, I do feel pretty confident in their defense above and beyond most others. But again, Calgary is the other team that's shown that they have a defense here. The only game they lost, they only gave up right around 20 points. So it's going to be a lower scoring game, but it's going to be a pretty good game, I believe.
All right. Who do you take?
I'm taking Calgary simply for the home factor. They don't seem to be afflicted with the same infection the rest of the league seems to have about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1-2 in a hypothetical power ranking, and I'm going to take the number 2 team at home as what I would go with.
Before you said that, I had it in my mind that I was going to just take the opposite of what you take. But, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't imagine that as good, based on the simple basis that if Calgary is being as good as they are, losing to the same team twice in this few games, just, I don't care what team it is, I can't buy it. The other thing is, are you concerned about, you're a BC Lions fan, are you concerned about Mr. Jennings? Are you worried about the consistency, the pressure that Calgary is going to bring, just the nicer coverage that Calgary brings that he probably hasn't seen this season? Are you concerned about that?
I'm not, and here's why.
Wow.
Because if I'm a BC fan, I know that Wally Buono is going to be paying attention to this. If he thinks Jennings is overwhelmed, they have Travis Lulay on the bench. If I'm a BC Lions fan right now, I have a lot of confidence in how Wally Buono has run this team so far this season. So either I get Jennings playing up to or close to his potential, or if he's not, we've already seen Wally pull the trigger once. What's to stop doing it again?
Well put. Yeah. In Wally we trust, and justifiably so there in BC. Absolutely. All right, let's see. You got more on this?
Nope. This one is one I'm really excited to see.
Oh yeah. Game of the week. One of the better games, I think, of the year so far. Hopefully. I mean, probably. Last up on the slate, can this be right? No, we also have the Montreal game, too. Montreal is hosting Saskatchewan. That, I guess, is prior to the BC Lions game. All right, so we haven't seen the Montreal game tonight in full, not even close, not even the first quarter. However, I don't have much faith in this team. I think Saskatchewan is riding the wave. I don't see anybody that's going to stop them in Montreal. I think Saskatchewan wins. Is this one easy?
I don't know if it's easy, but I feel like Saskatchewan is trending upward.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Montreal will be doing the same. And I have a lot more faith in Saskatchewan's coaching than I would in Montreal. So if I'm going to have that as a tiebreaker, I'm going to have to say the Riders in this one.
Okay, all right. All jokes and kidding aside, all hopes and dreams aside, okay? Realistically speaking, are Winnipeg and Montreal already playing out the string this season?
I think Winnipeg is 2 losses in a row here from doing that. If they go 1-6 into the bye week, I think they make changes. I think at least Michael Shea is gone at that point. You probably won't see much more of Drew Willie at that point. You're either going to see Matt Nichols or if he falters, Dominic Davis gets the reins for us for you, and let's see what the kid can do. Montreal, it's way too early. I mean, as of this recording, Winnipeg is 1-4. Montreal is only 1-2. So it's going to be a lot longer for Montreal to try to, especially it's just not it's just not Jim Pop's way. He went for it last year when they were in no position to go for it. So what's going to make him change his mind this year?
Okay, but they're only 1-2 right now. But they must be leading the league in season-ending injuries. They must be. Look, they've lost half of their quote unquote skilled players on offense. And their top receiver is a head case. It's not exactly looking good for the future. Then you talk about the defense. Yeah, great names, but a lot of these guys are looking their age this season. I mean, it's just and these problems are not going to be solved. The halfback is not going to drop out of the sky and be willing to play on your team. Right now, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I was thinking this the other day, you know, if you think about it pragmatically, it feels like, you know, these two teams might as well just mail it in because they're not making the playoffs. They won't. You know, Montreal definitely not. This team cannot make the playoffs. There's just no chance. No chance. You know, I feel about as strongly as that as you feel about Winnipeg's chances this week against Edmonton. You know, it's like I just you cannot see it happening. You cannot see it happening. Do you honestly give the Alouettes a shot at making the playoffs this year?
I could see a potential scenario where it's a possibility, so I'm not writing them off yet. If Toronto isn't the team we thought they were,
okay,
and if neither Saskatchewan or Winnipeg catches up for a crossover, I could see you know, a 7-11 Montreal team making the playoffs.
Wow. I don't know where you're going to get those 7 wins from, but that's another story.
Well, they play Winnipeg one more time, so there's one.
Yeah.
I kid,
that's the
but
spirit.
Only half.
Right. Okay. Let's go on to what should be a more interesting game. Closing out the week is Toronto at Ottawa. What do we know about Ottawa quarterback situation?
Right now, not a heck of a lot. There's some talk about Henry Burris coming off the 6th game. There's some talk that Trevor Harris does not have any structural damage. There is really no talk, and Ottawa's been one of the tighter-lipped teams about things like this, about who's going to be starting the game. Either way, though, I mean, we've seen all 3 of these quarterbacks produce either this recently or throughout their careers. So it's especially if it's Jensen for one more game, I'm not too worried yet. As far as Toronto goes, well, I really wish I could see the end of this game before making that call, because I'm feeling a little bit leery about them. But yeah, I see Ottawa winning this one next week, just simply for the fact that I think Ottawa would outscore Toronto again. Toronto's offense hasn't been all that prolific, so I think Ottawa can just go and do the let's score a bunch of points here and make the other team catch us thing. Yeah.
Even with a third-string quarterback, it's amazing. I mean, okay, so he is the best third-string quarterback in the league, right? So the Red Blacks basically have the second and the third best, the best number 2 and number 3 quarterbacks in the CFL, right?
As far as we're aware of at this moment, I would probably say all right. We haven't seen a lot of teams third-string quarterbacks yet, though.
Yeah, at least not the specialty down quarterbacks, because a few teams have used those this season already. Right then, okay. I'm gonna be boring. I'm gonna be boring and agree. I don't see the Red Blacks having a difficulty here, except again they're at home. But yeah, these are both Ontario teams, right? So maybe we can put an asterisk by that home field disadvantage in this game. Okay then. What else?
Did I talk you into 2 picks?
Sorry?
Did I talk you into a couple of these picks here? I feel like I did.
Not really. I mean, that'd be all right. Maybe I should go back on my Calgary Stampeders pick, and I'll pick the BC Lions just to be interesting. I mean, I think this game is going to be that close. I'm sitting here writing my column for The Grueling Truth, and I am so tempted to just, predict a tie. But I can't imagine that would happen to Calgary twice in the season. So, yeah, okay. I'll rescind my previous pick, and I'll go the BC Lions, because to me, this is a coin flip.
All right.
I'll do the TSN
out of a pick I talked you into before.
I'll do the TSN thing. I'll do the TSN thing. These guys are in love with this expression. Oh yeah, the team that has the ball last is going to win the game. So I'll say that for the BC Lions game, even though empirically that statement makes no sense because you're 50% correct no matter what the situation is. So, you got a 50% chance to nail it at any point in the game at any score. So it's kind of a nonsensical statement, but that's what I'm sticking with. I'm going with the BC Lions because they're going to be the last team with the ball, and that's why they're going to win.
Well, all right.
There you go. How's that for a crossover? How's that for a switch over? In any case, what else? Anything else, Joe? Any thoughts for next week? Any thoughts on this week? I mean, it's got to be better than last week for you, Joe. It's your big comeback week.
Yeah, there's been a couple weeks this season already where I've just been wrong about darn near everything, and this feels like one of those weeks. The funny thing is, though, it makes things a little bit more entertaining when things don't quite go the way you think they're gonna. Because why would you watch if you're making every prediction right? Why would you buy?
Right.
So I'm going to put an optimistic light on what we're seeing here.
Oh, absolutely. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind being wrong at CFL Pick'em, especially in the first half of the season. I'm happy that the Riders won and gave us an excellent game while doing it. I was very interested that Hamilton won. I think that they did a lot of teams a favor by exposing the Eskimos so badly on the defensive side. I certainly do not mind being wrong at CFL Pick'em. I prefer to be right in the second half of the season because it's sort of like vindication that I actually know what I'm talking about. But
exactly. Right?
Seriously, if you go 1-3 and Pick'em in like weeks 13 and 14, that's not so great. It shouldn't be that unpredictable to you at that point. But in this early part of the season, sure, who doesn't like surprises, right?
Sure, we'll go with that here, and hopefully we both piece things together a little bit better over the next couple weeks here. I think each and every week, though, we're getting a little bit more of the puzzle revealed, too, right?
Right.
We're seeing teams against different setups, seeing what they can achieve, what they're good at, what they're bad at here. So I think things will come into a little more focus right around Labor Day or so.
Right. I mean, that's one of the interesting things about the Lions Stampeders game, this week is that we saw them in week 1, but these two teams have grown and matured into the teams that we were thinking about in the preseason, and now we get to see them go off again. Now we see more developed teams, and we see these teams what they are, what we thought they were. In the words of Dennis Green, who passed away this week, this is when teams start really showing their true colors, I think.
All right. I think that pretty much wraps it up here for this week, doesn't it? Right.
Let's wrap it then. I'm Oz Davis for the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast presented by thegruelingtruth.net and my co-host Joe Pritchard. We are out of here. Enjoy the game.